Okay, we're back reading today, and we are on the one and only Bob, page 200. Anything loose that could be a, problem. Maya presses her lips together. Yep, such as a couple Florida panthers, gray wolves, python possibly an alligator or two. Alligator, American alligators, not Chinese. I don't care if they're from Canada. If they eat people, we're in trouble. Typically, Officer Williams repeats. Well, that's reassuring. Sarah loosens her grip on me ever so slightly. Maya, she asks, voice trembling, have you heard anything on the radio from George and Julia? I keep calling, but the cell towers are down. Nothing yet, Maya says, but I'm sure they're fine. Nearest shelter's over at Lincoln Elementary, says Officer Williams. You could check there. Sarah frowns. They were probably here right before the tornado hit. We're searching the park, ma'am, says the officer. We'll find them if they're here. Everybody clear out, a firefighter with a megaphone yells from a spot near Ivan. Could be danger or more collapse. We're working on this last metal beam. I look to see if Ivan's fingers are moving. Nothing. Hold on, Ivan, I yell. Nothing. Sometimes nothing is the worst sound in the world. Ruby lets out a little elephant cry, and then I realize that maybe that's the worst sound in the world. CPR. The wind dies down to a whisper as if the world is holding its breath along with the rest of us. Do you have any vets standing by? Asks Officer Williams as two more ambulances screech to a halt nearby. Yes, Maya nods. Not sure when they'll get here though. Officer Williams waves down an ambulance crew member. You ever give CPR in a gorilla? Primate's a primate, I guess, he says, but he doesn't look too sure. What's going on? We're waiting on equipment, but we're stretched pretty thin. Lot of structural damage on the north side of town, says Officer Williams. They're going to get a chain on that last beam. Try pulling it free with one of the cars. Somebody under there? Gorilla, we think. Not sure what else. Or who else? I look at all the cement, all the wood and metal. Nobody could survive that, not even a silverback gorilla with the strength of 8 men. And yet, Ivan's fingers move, and they didn't before. And then they didn't. Several minutes pass. The rain slows a bit along with the wind. The crowd watches as 3 firefighters attach a long chain to the metal beam next to Ivan, then hook it to a tow bar on the rear of a police car. Back up, folks, calls the megaphone guy. Farther. The chain clanks. The car growls. The wheels squeal. Grinding, groaning. Progress, just a bit. The big chunk of metal has definitely moved a whisker or two. More grinding. Wheels dig holes in the ground. Mud flies like thick brown rain. A lurch, a snap. Clanks and rumbles as the big beam jerks free. The rescue workers move in, digging with their bare hands. Cement and dust and metal and bits and pieces of gorilla world are everywhere. But where is Ivan? No movement, nothing. But after a few minutes, one thing is clear. A gorilla-shaped mound has appeared, covered by dust and dirt and debris and splattered with rain. It just lies there. I've lost a lot in my life, my whole family. Stella. But Ivan? No. It can't happen. Not Ivan. Miracle. The mound sits up. Gorilla ghost. Ivan emerges from a cloud of dust like a jumbo-sized ghost. He blinks several times, coughs, shakes, stretches a little. He's holding a banana, which he proceeds to eat. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, cheers. Wolf on the run. I scramble over to Ivan, and he gives me a look that says, "You're the best, Bob. I thought you were a goner," I say, licking some banana goo off his chin. Me too. Ivan seems a little dazed. His eyelashes are white with dust. What happened anyway? Tornado. Ruby okay? Kenyani? Julia? George? Haven't seen Julia or George yet. Kenyani's over there, carrying on. A paramedic holding a box of equipment approaches us nervously. "I've got this," calls a woman I recognize as one of the park veterinarians. The paramedic looks happy to step aside. The vet gently but firmly pushes me out of the way. "I'll be back," I tell Ivan. I run to Kenyani. "He's good, totally good." The look of joy in her eyes makes me want to give her an affectionate nose nudge. Almost. From there, I join Ruby and Maya. I was so scared. "Bob," Ruby whispers. "Me too," I admit. "Me too, but he's fine, I promise." We watch a pair of otters dart past, chased by a guy with a net. One of the firefighters who'd been clearing debris yells, "We're clear here!" No sign of other victims. Sarah closes her eyes and I can smell her relieved tears, while Maya listens to her walkie-talkie trying to take stock in the damage to the park. Officer Williams' police radio hisses and crackles with new problems, new flooding, new dire predictions. "Copy that," she says into her radio. Even with the chaos and noise, I'm close enough to the radio to catch the tiny sound of frantic barking. "We've got a unit reporting the animal shelter down the street's flooding," Officer Williams says. "And we've got trailer park damage on 12th Street. An oak down, that's a tree, at Nelson Avenue blocking traffic, and a big rig overturned near the fairgrounds. And that's just for starters." Out of the corner of my eye, I notice something airborne. It's graceful and bold like a huge wingless bird. The crowd gasps. It's Kimyu. He lands on the hood of Officer Williams' squad car. His eyes are glazed, his coat wet and shimmering. "We've got a 1091 here," Officer Williams whispers into her receiver. "Confirmed. Seems there's a wolf on top of my vehicle." Slowly, he reaches for his pistol on his hip. "Please advise." Shots fired. Several officers raise their guns. The tranquilizer dart guy takes aim too. "No," Maya yells. "No guns." Kimyu blinks, eyes darting right and left, then leaps off the car with such grace and speed, it's like he owns the wind. 2 shots ring out. Silence follows. "Was he hit?" someone asks. Maya closes her eyes. "I sure hope not." I sure hope so, someone says. Jungle. As I watched that leap, watched Kimyu fly, I didn't know what to think. Part of me was like, "Go for it, dude." And the other part of me was thinking, it's a jungle out there. A situation. Officer Williams climbs onto a picnic table. Someone hands her a megaphone so she can be heard over the din. "Folks," she yells, "listen up. We've got a handful of animal control workers coming over, but several roads are already flooded out. And the weather guys are saying Gus," that's Hurricane Gus, "is going to take his sweet time. Meantime, park supervisors, call in more help, but only if your workers can get here safely." The unmistakable roar of a big cat rolls over us like slow thunder. "Any more trank guns?" Officer Williams asks the park director, who's just arrived. 3 in reverse, she answers. "Nets?" "We have a dozen." "Okay then," Officer Williams' radio crackles. I can hear more shouting, more barking dogs. "Shelter's flooding," she says. "Yeah, that's happened here before," the director says. "Usually just a foot or 2 of water." "Okay, public safety is where we start." Officer Williams wipes rain from her forehead. "We need to get the word out that these animals are on the loose." "Of course," says the director. "We have protocols in place, but we need to be careful how we word this. People might overreact." "Ma'am," a firefighter interrupts, "I see a python in my backyard. I'm sure as heck gonna overreact." "First things first," Officer Williams. So he was just basically saying, if I happen to be in my backyard and I see a python, I'm definitely going to overreact. Remember, every time they talk about a trank gun, it's not a gun where they kill the animals. It's a tranquilizer. That's what it's short for. And tranquilizer is a way of subduing, and the animal immediately falls asleep for a certain amount of time so they can get it back into a safe place, and then it wakes up and it doesn't remember anything. Check wreckage for any supervisors, human or animal. Fan out with trank guns. Get an inventory on how many animals are loose. I wonder how it's possible that Officer Williams can seem so composed. The air reeks with fear from animals, birds, people, from me, and yet she doesn't seem worried about herself, just other people. Weird, the way some humans stick their necks out for others. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Again, the crackle, the hiss, the barking. My ears perk up for a minute. Was that a familiar voice? Maybe someone I know is in the slammer. I'm going to the shelter at the elementary school, Sarah says. Her hands are trembling, but her voice is firm. To look for Julia and George, just in case. She strokes my head, and I'm happy to let her. I wonder if I should tag along with her, see if I can help out, now that I know Ivan and Ruby are safe. Hiss, crackle, meow, bark. I hear it again. My ears go on alert. My body goes rigid. No, it's impossible. Never. Some dogs never bark. One place. I know what I have to do. Despite the turmoil all around me, the noises, the smells, the fear, the confused humans, the frantic animals, despite my worry about Julie and George, I know there's one place I need to be. A split second. I want to tell Ivan and Ruby, but Ivan is still being poked at by the rhymes with Pete threat. Although, come to think of it, she doesn't seem like much of a threat. In a movie, she'd be good. She'd be one of the good guys. To my annoyance, Sarah picks me up. I hate being picked up unless it's my idea. Then it's totally cool. Maya, she says, you let me know. First sign of George and Julia, okay? My promise, says Maya, and she places her hand on Sarah's shoulders. Humans always with the touching, although I kind of get it under the circumstances. You can't take Bob to the school shelter. They're not allowing any more pets, Maya points out, and the animal shelter is flooding. It sounds like. Why don't you leave him here? I'll put him in my office. He'll be safe. No way is that on my agenda. Sarah nods. Good idea. She starts to hand me over, but hesitates when she realizes Maya still has a meerkat wrapped around her neck. It's just a split second, but a split second is all it takes to escape when you're Bob, untamed and undaunted. On my way. Bob! Sarah cries. Grab the dog, Maya yells. I spent a good part of my life running from a certain guy named Mac, and I still have my moves. I twist and spin and dip, and before you can say, yes, sirree, Bob, they've given up. I backtrack, slip under a bench, and make my way to Ruby. Ruby, I whisper, I gotta go. Something important's come up. You and Ivan see if you can find Julia and George. I want to come, Ruby says, stomping her right front foot in a huge puddle. You need to keep an eye on Ivan, I say. Make sure Kenyani doesn't drive him loco with her sobbing. I'll be back before you know it. I don't wait for an answer. I'm off into the wild, into the world filled with wind and rain, with wolves and alligators, with a voice that could rip my heart in two. Part 3. Looking. Ivan used to ask me what I did when I wasn't hanging out at the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade. I wasn't like the rest of the animals, cage trapped. I told him I was scrounging for food, and he never questioned it. When you think about it, though, where's a better place to find food than the floor of a mall at the end of the day? Yeah, I wasn't looking for food. I was looking for her boss. What if? At first, I didn't admit it to myself. You know how it is when you wish for something so bad, you're afraid to say it out loud, because what if it never happens? It was like that. I knew the odds were crazy long. I knew I was nuts, and yet I went out day after day searching for her. 6. There had been 6 of us in the litter. So why was I only looking for her? Because it was her bark I'd heard. That bark that he heard, he realized he heard it. It must have been one of his sisters from the litter that he was born in. After the box landed. Oh, I'm sorry. He's saying it was her bark that I heard after the box landed. Even after the truck roared past, I heard it. A whimper, bark, howl, cry, something I've never heard since. She survived, at least at first. I survived. The rest of them did not. So he and his sister are the only ones that survived being thrown from the truck in the box. Relieved. And what did I do when I heard that bark? Did I run toward it? Did I try to find it, to save it? No. No. I was just a few weeks old, helpless, useless. The cries stopped almost as soon as they'd started. And you know what? Part of me was relieved. I didn't want to have to go back onto that highway. I couldn't bear wanting to rescue her and not knowing how. I didn't want to see her die, but mostly I was afraid.